So in the first half of this video, we talked all about the key components that you will encounter and consider when you're doing a visual analysis. And now we're going to talk a little bit about context, or how it relates to the world around it. So it's really important to not only examine something based on what you see right in front of you, but to also make sense of something in context or in relation to the rest of the world. Context is, by definition, the circumstances that form the setting for an event, statement, or idea, and in terms of which it can be fully understood and assessed. When you examine context, you take into account these circumstances that surround it and allowed it to come into being and exist alongside it, continuing to influence it. When we talk specifically about rhetorical context, we're talking about the world where a piece of communication or rhetoric came into being, considering its purpose, audience, and author. But just like when you analyze and deconstruct a text and consider all these underlying influences and meanings, you can consider the context of anything that is intentionally created, because anything that is intentionally created has a purpose it wants to get across. This gets even deeper into the why and how that follows your who, what, and where of your observation. So you'll consider, what is the main purpose or stated goal? Who is the target audience? Or who is this thing meant to serve? Who all were involved in making it? In the case of a grocery store or the products within, it's not just the store itself or the company itself, but there could be a long line of companies leading back to a parent company. And this is described in depth in that reading, Grocery Goliaths. And although if you analyze a text, you consider who published it and where it was published online, in a magazine, etc., when analyzing a place, consider its location and all the influences of its location, its neighborhood, the community, the region, and so forth. In addition to rhetorical context, the context of something that is being communicated to an audience, you also want to think about some other kinds of context. Social context considers the immediate or relevant social or cultural circumstances of something, say a neighborhood or regional context. This one is especially important when scrutinizing a locality. Historical context considers a larger scale climate. Think movements or eras, the stuff of history books, and what they tell you about something. If you were to consider historical context, you might think about the lingering effects of the Great Recession when wondering why there are so many middle-aged and older people working minimum wage or entry-level after-school jobs at a grocery store. Intertextuality is effectively comparing and contrasting and considering how something relates to something else. When analyzing texts, you might compare a novel by Tolstoy to a novel by Dostoevsky, two very different Russian authors from the 19th century. When analyzing a visual, you might compare two different labels, one from a generic store brand and one from a name brand. You can also compare two different stores entirely. Maybe a discount store versus a more upscale store like Wegmans. Ultimately, it's all about thinking how the outside world influences something, and further understanding something based on the world that it exists in. Because nothing is in a bubble, you have to consider outside factors to really understand it. So just one more word on intertextuality. It's really just a fancy way of saying how we compare and contrast one thing to another. And when we do this, if you try to do it in your paper, for instance, there are generally two methods of doing it. Chunking is where you compare one thing at a time. Compare one in one section and compare the next separately afterwards. So sometimes the second item being compared does reference the first, but only briefly. Sections still feel very distinct. And you would use this if you were, say, determining that you were going to compare two entirely separate grocery stores. For smaller things, like comparing one label to another, say a generic store brand to a name brand, you probably would do something more in the line of sequencing, where you compare two or more things point by point in the form of a back and forth. You would use a new paragraph to discuss each individual point if you were discussing something in great depth. However, if you're just doing a short side-by-side comparison of something, you probably could do line by line all within one individual paragraph. So lastly, it's very, very, very important to examine the consequences or the real-world results that something has. When analyzing and creating an essay about something that has a direct impact on something, the environment, people, economic systems, communities, and so forth, it's not sufficient to just tell us there is more than meets the eye. You need to also tell us about the real-world implications or effects of it, whether it be the success or failure of its own goal or purpose, or the intentional or unintentional consequences, whether they be good or more likely not so good. So when you're considering the consequences, you want to consider things like, is it successful? What is the ultimate positive benefit if there is one? And keep in mind, while a well-rounded and balanced analysis considers the good and the bad, highlighting negative consequences is generally considered more useful for affecting positive change. So while you can consider whether or not it is successful or the extent to which it is successful, you shouldn't ever just stop here. It's also really important to consider motivations. So did the creator have some kind of ulterior motivations? And did those end up having negative effects? For instance, selling a certain product despite known health consequences. And lastly, consider if there are unintentional consequences, things that happened that had a negative effect on consumers or the environment, but were truly unintended. For instance, when margarine was marketed as a healthy alternative to butter because it didn't have saturated fat, but it ended up being actually worse for people because it had trans fat. So that would be an example of an unintended negative consequence. When you consider the real-world impact of something, you give meaning and purpose to its analysis. We need to fully understand something and acknowledge its flaws before we can address and fix its problems. And that really is what the purpose of analysis is. So let's do a really brief recap of everything we've learned across these videos. First of all, you want to consider composition, the design elements, and their relation to each other, including perspective, color, and layout. You also want to consider people and figures, how they relate to each other, body language, speech, demographics, and things like that. And with this, you want to consider words, the words that the people, including the employees and the consumers, speak to each other, as well as the words that the store uses to convey information, like its advertisements and slogans, and the tone and arrangement and design of that text, which offers clues as to the intent. You'll also want to consider the overall tone of the store, or the mood or the dominant impression, how a product or the entire store makes you feel as an individual. Consider the vibe of the whole place. What are you meant to feel as you're shopping there? What are you meant to feel or associate with an individual product? And of course, the setting, how something is staged for an effect, which also is relevant to the dominant impression. So think about foreground versus background, as well as sensory manipulation. And lastly, you'll want to consider that rhetorical context, understanding a purpose, audience, and the creator, the author, or the owner of the store, or the manufacturer, or whoever is responsible for bringing this thing into the world. You'll also consider the social and historical context, as well as intertextuality, or how this thing might relate to another thing, both products compared to other products, or maybe healthy products compared to unhealthy products, or an entire store to another different entire store. Now, once you've considered all of these different things that you're analyzing, then you want to start thinking about the consequences, the successes, failures, intended and unintended, positive, as well as, and most importantly, negative consequences of this whole manipulation that grocery stores create in order to sell products. The consequences are what's going to really make your argument important and meaningful for the reader. So don't forget this part as well. So now you're ready to start analyzing. So your observation report is due first, but keep in mind all of these underlying elements of the store as you complete your observation. Although your observation report is factual and objective, don't try to analyze and create an argument with the observation report yet. The more focused you are on things that you can potentially analyze, the easier the assignment is going to be down the road. And as usual, if you have any questions, just send me an email or chat. Have a good one.